do you feel about this watch?
It looks like your watch, but a little more nautical or tactile.
Yeah.
Tactical.
I
tactile.
like it.
Yeah.
But I feel like it might be a bit too much.
Okay.
I don't know. It reminds me of the watch in Metal Gear 5, which is just a watch that Kojima had in the 80s.
Okay.
And, like, he posted a picture of it on his own wrist once. And I was like, oh, fuck, cool, that's a real watch. I'm going to buy it. And it's, like, thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. Not because it's an expensive watch, but because they just don't make it anymore.
Yeah. Eating Soup Alone is a podcast hosted by me, Christopher Crumley, and co-hosted by Nicholas Johnson. We try our best to ramble incoherently about a handful of movies at least once a week.
So we watched My Own Private Idaho.
Oh, that's where we're going to start?
Yeah. Did you want to do a full episode on that?
No, but
We got all three written on the board, so I thought we were going to talk about
we're triple
three.
threat.
Triple threat, maybe.
You thinking? I don't know. My Own Private Idaho. Let's see how long we can talk about this one. Because this, honestly, it was a movie that, like, when I finished it, I was like, I'd like this. I also feel like I got to watch it a couple of times.
Yeah.
I'm going to take it back to, like, being a kid. Again, this is not me as an adult saying this. But I can remember being 12 and seeing, this is so ridiculous, I'm sorry, Donnie Darko, and immediately going, I like this. I don't totally understand, nor do I know exactly what I'm connecting to or, like, what I like even. And so, like, almost immediately after, like, I watched it again, and then I was like, fuck, I still don't understand this. And I was, like, reading shit, and I was like, okay, that's kind of an interesting way to look at it. I didn't necessarily take it all entirely to heart, but it was nice to kind of have, like, some people's kind of theories in mind and stuff, and I watched it, and just slowly over time, like, I kind of, like, developed, like, okay, I could probably articulate some of the stuff that I like about Donnie Darko. And I'm not saying that this movie is, like, overly complex or anything like that, even, but it's definitely one of those things where, like, some of the stuff that appealed to me is just the sort of, like, it's real world, it's concrete, but it's also still a little, like, slightly square peg round hole, almost like that, like, just lynchy, like, dreamy, surreal thing.
Yeah.
Just weird, just a little quirky, but not in, like, a Juno way. And yeah, just that kind of a thing, like, just the weird disjointed communication, disjointed scenes, camera just kind of weirdly lingering on the horizon while, you know, River Phoenix says some shit that reinforces themes or symbolism, but don't necessarily make a whole lot of, like, just linear narrative plot sense or anything like that.
Yeah, I loved all that. Yeah.
But as a whole, like I said, I don't know how productive overall of a talk I'll be able to have about it.
Yeah, same. That's
so, but is there anything that you're dying to say about it?
I was going to let you do the heavy lifting.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to toss the ball on you. You went in with no anything, I don't think, right?
Yeah, you were just watching it, and I was like, I got nothing else going on, so I watched it with you. I thought it was...
How long was it before you were like, oh, it's kind of interesting?
Immediately.
Okay.
As soon as you get the hook that he's a...
Narcoleptic.
He's a gigolo with narcolepsy. I was like, I'm into this. This could be fun. And I was really enjoying it. Like all the stuff with him and Keanu and the mom from Twin Peaks. Mm-hmm. And then they met Bob. Mm-hmm. And it got kind of pseudo Shakespeare-y.
I will say.
And I was like, ooh, I think I'm out. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I wasn't
And then they left
fan
him, and I was like, back in. Hell yeah.
Yeah, I will say I'm not a big fan of that. But just in general, I don't have a leaning towards or like an appreciation for Shakespeare. I just don't.
Yeah, me neither.
It's just not in my blood. I don't like it. But I will say it was interesting that like the most articulate and seemingly like kind of like, I don't know, educated or intelligent characters are these homeless street urchins, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that's kind of funny. I do like that. I don't know if that's as far as it goes. It might go farther. That's one of the reasons why maybe I'd like to watch it again, maybe read what some people have to say about it. But my immediate gut shallow reaction is just like, oh, that's a neat little funny thing, right?
Yeah.
And so understanding that it's only takes up some of the runtime of the movie, and that's kind of almost like a little vignette, I can get over it. But I will say that my appreciation kind of grinded a little bit to almost a halt, because I don't like Shakespeare things, you know.
Yeah, I was like, no, I don't love this. And then they're on the motorcycle and they stop at the fire, and River Phoenix confesses his love for Keanu Reeves.
It's a pretty intense scene. I
And
like that a
Keanu
lot.
Reeves is like, oh, come on, man. I was like, you got me. I'm back in.
Yeah,
Oh,
and I like that it just ends with him being like, I'll hold you for a minute,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. I do like the road trip, the cast characters they meet, his brother, who is his dad, if I remember correctly. Spoilers.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
and go to Rome. They meet the Gigolos
I do
there.
really appreciate, I believe it's intended to be comedic and it's over the top, the fact that they go to Rome and they're like, yeah, your mom's back in America.
Yeah.
It's also nice that, again, it's a little surreal and dream logic-y, so there's like that leap where it's like, what would these two street urchin gigolos, like how would they be able to get passports that fast? Right.
Keanu Reeves is
The mayor's son.
has unlimited money, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and they get there and they meet that Italian girl, and as soon as she pops up, I'm like, I'm in love with you. And Keanu Reeves is like, I'm in love with you.
Yeah, and then you get all those scenes where Rivers just kind of just sit there and
Yeah, which is really
little heartbreaking.
It's a bummer, yeah.
yeah.
I like that the sex scenes in this movie are just quick flashes of positions, but they're
Yes.
still filmed, so they're moving just a little bit. There was one scene, and listen, I've never had sex with two men before.
Yeah.
I've never had sex with handcuffs before. So you tell me if this is a thing. Maybe it's not. But when they're having sex with that man who is singing with the lamp, loved
Yeah.
all that stuff, by the way.
That was really good, yeah.
There's just like a quick cut of them banging where I think it's Keanu Reeves is holding two handcuffs to the guy's butt like a taser. What are you accomplishing there?
I don't know. It's maybe cute. Maybe it's just being like cute little pinchers, pinching the butt a little bit.
No, it's
don't
not
know.
even like he was pinching them. They were just outstretched, and he was just pushing them into one in each butt cheek.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
I've also never involved handcuffs in my lovemaking.
We'll have to do some research.
Yeah.
Hit the
Yeah, I'm
streets.
curious also, like, I would even like to, like, look in a little bit to, like, I guess what inspired the story for Gus Van Sant, even? Or if there's a story there or anything like that.
It's
if he has
based
anything
on
to say about it.
Henry the Some Number by Shakespeare.
Interesting.
It's like a retelling of that, yeah.
Yeah. Well, just like The Lion King, I'm sure it did a better job than Shakespeare.
Hell yeah. Fuck that guy. Glad he's dead.
I don't hate Shakespeare that much, but I can't really stand it at the same time. Yeah, because I don't know. Yeah, like I said throughout, you know, us watching it together. I have a couple of friends who are sexually oriented in that direction, and there's definitely a decent amount of like, yeah, just old dudes sometimes pay me to jerk me off, you know. So there are a lot of ways in which it's like very specifically and realistically like grounded in reality.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's this weird like balance between being odd and artsy and surreal and dreamy, but then also really, really real and really, really concrete sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, it reminds me a little bit of a movie I'd go on to watch later in the week, Gummo, which I really hope you watch soon. But yeah, overall, My Own Private Idaho, I loved it. It's a movie that I could see myself rewatching. You know, I would recommend it to people, but I also think there's a chance that it could be a movie, which is fine because there's a lot of movies that I love that I recommend to people where, like, you might have to be in the right mood, kind of.
Yeah, I get that.
I don't know. What would you say about kind of if you were to wrap it up as I had
If I were to wrap up
Yeah, if you were wrapping it up, kind of.
the potato movie, I would...
There's a B-52 song called My Own Private Idaho.
Oh.
So.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was good.
Yeah.
I would recommend it. I don't see myself ever watching it again, probably. I feel like I got what I needed out of it. Who knows? I'm not saying I won't watch it again, but I don't see me ever in my life being like, you know what? I'm going to give My Own Private Idaho another shot.
I just think there are a lot of scenes that I'd like to see again. Kind of like how I was showing you a couple of the scenes from like Gummo that I was like, oh yeah, this is cool, and I want to show people this.
Yeah.
That kind of a thing. Like it's definitely like a sensory thing where like I want that more. You know, I wasn't necessarily entirely like gripped by the story. I know there was a story there, and there's some interesting story beats and stuff, but it's more so like yeah, just like a passive, like I just want to sit and like have it come my way again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had just a quick aside.
Sure.
Maybe we'll talk about it more at another time, but you were talking about how perplexed you were by Donnie Darko.
Yeah.
I'm just giving you shit.
No, I was. Not gonna lie.
I had the exact same experience myself last night. I watched 2001: A Space Odyssey for the first time. You wrapped it up perfectly. I don't know what I'm connecting to in this movie, but I enjoyed it. It is no Shining. I feel as I'm getting older, the best way I can wrap this up, I like cowboys more than I like astronauts now.
Why?
I don't know. I don't know if you knew this about me, but back in the day, just all about space.
Okay.
Love all that shit. Aesthetically, ideologically. Sorry, I just had a stroke trying to say a word. I'm not going to try again. Just everything about space I just really enjoyed.
Okay.
I was watching 2001 and I was like, it all looks really good.
Especially being, I'm pretty sure, pre a human being ever being in space.
Maybe.
I'm pretty sure it was.
1968?
We went to the moon in 69, I think. Because it was, JFK was like, we'll do it by the end of the decade, and they got shot, and everybody was like, are we going to really make the deadline?
I wasn't that into space. I don't know the
I could be wrong. But I think it was very much so like the inception of its day.
Really like...
Not Inception, I'm my God. I meant Interstellar.
Okay, good, yeah.
Yeah, like it's the Interstellar of its day. Not to say that Interstellar is like superior. I say most people would say Interstellar is the 2001 of this day.
Yeah, no,
but
I get that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was thinking of Interstellar a lot while watching it, and I was just kind of like, I'm kind of over space movies.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much I'm going to look into 2001 to try and understand it a little bit more. I probably will. But it didn't get me like The Shining did. No. The Shining, when I watch it, I was immediately like, I know exactly what I like about this movie.
Yeah.
And I'd like to know as much as possible about it.
I am going to go out on a limb and say that there's no other movie that, like, as soon as it starts, there's just this fucking trance. It's got this aura. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm just
absolutely
in. There's no getting me out. That's not a movie that I'm walking away halfway through. Like, I am in when that's on.
Yeah.
It's almost hypnotic.
And I started feeling that during 2001.
Yeah, because it's so slow.
Arguably, like, 2001 is kind of boring.
Yeah.
And that's totally fine sometimes for a movie.
Will be a podcast probably where we talk about this. I should watch it again, and then we could actually talk about it. But
But yeah, those are just my general feelings on it so far. I love it aesthetically.
Predates Star Wars. Looks a little bit like Star Wars sometimes, like the suit that Dave's wearing.
Yeah, I like the suit.
I
like the suits and everything reflecting off their helmet. So when he's not wearing the helmet, it like kind of is projected on his face. I love Hal. He seems like a cool guy. Even when he turns, I was like, you know what? I like to play chess with this guy. He seems like a good time. I love. Last thing I'll bring up about it is I've seen people talk about it before, where they talk about like, you know, just explaining things in movies without telling you, like telling you visually. There's that part where they go into the pod to talk about Hal together without Hal being able to hear them.
Yeah.
And they're talking and they're talking and they're talking, and it cuts. Hal is in the center of the screen the entire time in the background, and then it cuts to a close up on him and his light, and all the sound is gone, so you know it's from his point of view. And then it cuts back to their mouths, and switches from back and forth, and you're like, oh fuck, you can read their lips, and it's such a brilliant little way to show you what this computer is thinking or what this person is thinking.
Tell.
Show don't tell, exactly. It was great.
On a side note, I feel like I've been just #blessed lately, because I haven't seen a bad movie in a while.
Yeah, that's a great
It's just
point.
been hitter after hitter. I mean, well, that's not actually true. I saw Amityville Horror, and that's one of the worst movies I've ever seen. But then we watched Magnolia. Then we watched fucking
Fargo,
Carrie, My Own Private Idaho, Gummo.
We did watch Scream 2.
Scream and Scream 2. Scream 2, yeah, we'll get to that. That's a mixed bag in my opinion.
I had a good time, though.
Yeah. We'll talk about when we talk about it, I guess. You want to grade My Own Private Idaho?
Out of...
Like an A to F kind of thing? Because I feel like that's better than like giving it like
letters again. Yeah, I forgot.
Numbers. Because then that's more of like a whatever it was going for, how did it do?
I'd give it a cool B-. I
was thinking B plus A range, but I guess I'll say B plus because I don't want everything like I know I've seen a lot of good movies lately, and I don't want to keep saying like A plus, right?
Yeah.
So I'll say B plus.
I'm really excited lately. I'm on a goddamn roll with movies lately.
Yeah.
Every time I watch a movie, my entire life, I'm like, I watch a movie, especially a good movie, and I'm like, I feel great. I love movies. I gotta watch more movies. And then a long time passes, and I don't watch another movie. But lately, I'll just be hanging around, and I'm like, fuck, I want to watch a movie right now. I've just been doing it.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy about it.
As have I. I've actually been bummed out. Like even yesterday, when I was like, I got band practice, but I kind of just wanted to come home and watch a movie.
Yeah. You were like, I gotta go to band practice. I was like, I want to watch The Godfather.
Yeah, even earlier you were like, let's watch The Godfather. And I was like, I know, but we should probably do a podcast.
Yeah, fucking stupid thing.
Yeah. So Scream
1. Yeah, let's
How
move
many
on
times
to
have you seen
cinema
Scream?
now.
How many times have you seen Scream?
How many times have I seen Scream?
Yeah.
Probably like 6-7 times maybe.
Yeah.
Good movie.
Can you take yourself back to the first time you ever saw it?
First time I ever saw Scream, I don't know what got me to watch it, but I saw it on YouTube. It's one of those things. I found the whole thing in like 3 parts on YouTube. And like 1480p or something like that. And I watched it and I loved it. I was like, oh, this is great. And then I was like, oh, sick, they got Scream 2. And I watched it and I was like, oh, okay, they got Scream 3. I'm here. I guess I'll watch Scream 3. And I don't remember anything. I remember who the killer is in Scream 3 because I recognize him from a TV show. But I don't know his character, his motivations, or anything like that. I'm sorry, their motivations. Spoilers. But, yeah, first time I watched Scream, I was, I don't know, maybe sophomore in high school. And I thought it was cool. And I think the next time I watched it, I was like, oh no, this movie's really special. It's not particularly scary ever.
I would disagree a little bit.
I mean, it has its moments where it's a little spooky, but I think that's it.
I would say Ghostface feels dangerous.
Yeah.
And that's where a little bit of the scare comes from for me. Like anytime he's on screen, I'm like, oh. Because I think there's a lot of like gruesome deaths and gory kind of shit.
Okay, yeah.
In Scream. So it seems like a much more visceral thing, right?
I think that part of that is due to the fact that he is just a dude.
Yeah.
And I think it is very clearly...
Which is kind of my problem with the second one. There's a lot of like, how did he get over there?
We'll get to that.
Yeah,
I mean, I'll get to it now. There's a part in Scream 2 where they're in the back of a cop car driving away. And a cop turns and looks in the back seat. He's like, oh, cop joke, am I right? And Ghostface is just outside of the car and punches through the window and starts killing all of them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the fuck is this?
Well, then towards the tail end of the thing, they've established that there's only one way out of the car.
Yeah.
They run away from the car. Then the main girl, whose name is Sydney Prescott, is like, wait, I gotta go back and find out. She goes back. He's not in the car. Then somehow he's made his way behind her friend who stayed back to where the turning point was, even though, again, established there's only one way out of the car. And like I said, it's like a Batman moment where it's like, yes, I understand how he probably could have, but 1, not without making a scene, and 2, not that quickly, kind of a thing.
Also, he was just unconscious for 3-4 minutes straight. There's no way he's got the mental fortitude to do that sneaking.
Back to Scream.
Back to Scream 1. I think he's a man, and that's what makes him scary. Men. Yeah. That's what makes him scary. And I think that point is really well illustrated in the beginning with Drew Barrymore, where like she's like hiding behind the TV or something like that, or she's like looking in through the window and she's outside at this point, and you see him just like moving curtains and like looking through shit like, fuck, is she back here? Is she over here? Instead of like a Jason Voorhees or something like that where they're just like, you turn around, they're like, I'm there. You see him just like, fucking gee, where'd she go? It's great. I love it.
Yeah, that first scene, it's really hard. Well, one of the first things that I mentioned was like, I wish that I would have been, not to get all le wrong generation, but I wish that I could have seen Scream before the Ghostface killer was a branded thing. Because I think that there's a layer to which Scream is scary. Because from my understanding, at least, that was a pretty common costume. It's not something they came up with for the movie.
It's not something they came up with for the movie. It was a costume that was sold like at a local carnival, and the local carnival had the rights to it.
Okay.
So no, I don't think you would have if you were in that generation.
Yeah, you would have seen it on Halloween or anything like that,
you
right?
wouldn't you probably wouldn't have seen it before this movie.
But at least it's not a thing where it's like, oh, that's Ghostface. And I guess you could say that about all the movies. Like, I wish there was a way that I could see Jason Voorhees with a hockey mask for the first time and not already have that burned into my brain. Or even Freddy Krueger. But anyways, the other thing about it is like there's that moment which again like I wish I could experience or like remember experiencing for the first time where like he goes like, what's your name? And she's like, why do you want to know my name? And it's the turning point in the conversation because he goes, because I want to know who I'm looking at.
Oh yeah.
And that's a really, really like still gives me a little bit of chills, but it doesn't hit me as hard as I feel like it would. Like again, like I just wish I was cognizant of the first time I heard that bit because that is a big, and it's good and it still works, I think.
Yeah, it is. We were talking about it while we were watching it. It's the call is coming from inside the house thing, which was just the scariest thing on the planet to me as a kid. And to this day, that is, bone chilling. Yeah.
And so, like, I think the first scene is a really, really important scene because, like I said, there's like this brutality and like visceral nature to it, like danger to like Ghostface. He really does feel like a threat. There's an element to which where like it's set in this like white suburban safe, don't lock your doors kind of thing, right? So there's that neat thing where like Ghostface says like, I'm at the front door, I'm at the back door, you decide kind of a thing.
Yeah.
She's like, no, I don't want to play this game. Little secret, obviously they're both at each door, so there's no way she's gonna pick the right door, right? Because there's two of them.
Actually, no, I think it's just Johnny Depp. Because I think later, Jamie Kennedy's like, oh, well, where were you last night, Matthew? Literally, he's like, I was with my girlfriend all night. And so that's how they can kind of get away with it by having an alibi. One of them has an alibi at all times,
But anyways, fast forward to the end. Like, and again, it ends on like such a fucking like dark and brutal like moment where like the parents are coming up to the doors and she's just around the corner and she can't speak because her lungs are filling up with blood and stuff like that. She dies right there. And I will say I don't like, it's almost like that scene in The Silence of the Lambs I've talked about before, where like there's just a jump the shark moment where like how would Hannibal Lecter actually be able to pull this off? The fact that they somehow got her strung up on the tree that quick. Climbing trees aren't that easy, especially if you're alone, like you were saying. If it's just one guy with a body climbing the tree and hanging it, like how would that happen that fast? It just wouldn't.
I'm going to say maybe he set it up beforehand. Because he obviously had a plan. He knew the boyfriend was coming, going to tape him up in the backyard. So I'd say maybe before he got there, or maybe before he called her, he had a noose and he threw it over the tree branch.
Sure.
And so it's laying on the ground so he can just...
Sure.
I mimed pulling a rope for our listeners.
Either way, it's just one of those moments where like it stops and makes you think, but not necessarily like in an interesting way. Yeah. Just in like a, well, you have to try to explain it for yourself, kind of whatever. So anyways, opening scene, good.
Also,
really strong.
Really strong. Also, due to the fact that it's Drew Barrymore. One of the biggest movie stars on the planet, and she dies immediately. Like, I'm taking this from something I read or heard not too long ago about Scream. Drew Barrymore's on the fucking poster. And yeah, like it's a classic Hollywood like a Psycho thing, where it's like, oh, someone that you think is here to stay, we're taking them out almost immediately. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, and I do like that to this day, even though I know who dies, there's just a feeling that like anybody could die, right? Like, yeah, I really genuinely feel that in this movie. Like, I don't really, other than Sidney Prescott, obviously she's safe, but yeah, just I don't know. I always feel like. And it's a little on edge, more than other slasher movies.
It's one of those movies that every time I watch it, like you said, I know everything that happens in this movie, but when she's running up to that porch and she can't scream at her parents, I'm like, oh, just throw the phone. Throw the phone on the porch, they'll hear it, they'll look at you, you'll be safe.
You mentioned that Billy Loomis looks like Johnny Depp, and I actually like made a note about that he's like the dark, creepy, twisted version of Johnny Depp's character in that movie. Because Johnny Depp's character in that movie is pretty normal. He's just like a normal guy who wears like football cut-off sweaters and gets sucked into a bed. And anyways, but yeah, he's kind of like a fucked up, weird kid version of Billy Loomis.
Yeah.
Or not Billy Loomis, Johnny Depp. And I guess maybe just talk about strong scenes. There's also the scene where he comes to visit Sidney Prescott, Billy does, and he drops the cell phone.
Yes.
Right after she's been attacked by the ghost face.
Yeah. And I love throughout this whole movie, like almost right off the bat, they're like, oh, it's this guy. And it's the classic slasher movie fake out where they're like, ooh, this guy's bad.
Yeah.
He's the obvious candidate for the whole thing. And then, he gets killed at the end. So you're like, oh, fuck, I have no idea who it's going to be now. And it's him. It's him the entire time.
You know what I'll say, though? The cell phone's less suspicious to me, probably because we live in an age where there's cell phones everywhere, whatever. But the thing that always sticks out to me every time I watch it is it's way more unsettling that he just says he's gone. He's gone. He's trying to, like, comfort her by saying, like, oh, don't worry, he's gone, he's gone, he's gone.
No.
And that's one of those things where it's like, if my girlfriend was that upset about that kind of a thing, I don't think I would just go like, oh, well, I don't see anybody in the immediate vicinity, so he's gone, right? Like, let's say you're, like, trying to, like, lie or even, like, put yourself in that situation, like, it'd be way more believable if he, like, I don't know, opened up the door and, like, was looking around and was like, no, he's gone, don't worry. But the fact that he goes, oh, no, shh, he's gone.
Yep.
That is the thing that really, like, is bone-chilling to me.
Yeah.
That's the thing that's really fucked.
I also like earlier in that scene where he calls her as Ghostface. She says something along the lines of, like, I don't like horror movies because it's some, big-chested bimbo who is running up the stairs when she should be running out the front door.
And then she immediately...
And then later, no, the door gets locked. She tries to go out the front door, it's locked, and she has to run up the stairs.
Yes,
ooh,
I
that's
forgot
so good.
that she has to do, right. Excuse me. Trying to think of other scenes that really... is there anything that really, like, jumps out at you as, like, oh, this is a great scene?
Yes. Skipping to the end of the movie. Something I'd never noticed until we watched it this time is obviously they're watching Halloween at the party, but there's those scenes where he's creeping through the house and they play the Halloween music.
Yes.
Because it's technically diegetic. It's happening in the scene, but they pump it through all the way.
Well, you know what?
What?
I don't know if you're going to go there or not, but one thing that I really like is there's a scene that Billy Loomis can recognize by hearing it. And he realizes that it's the scene where Jamie Lee Curtis is hiding from the killer in the closet. And he walks past the closet, stops and thinks, Sydney's probably in here. And that's when he opens up the closet to check for her.
I didn't notice that. That's really good. That's
right?
really good.
And it's really, really, really good because one of the things that people always praise this movie for is like kind of being like, maybe ham food or whatever, but like a social critique also of just like how media saturated we all are, right?
Yeah.
All of these characters are constantly making references to, oh, please don't kill me, Mr. Ghostface. I want to be in the sequel. Or like, there's a formula. Don't you know the rules? And so like, I just love the fact that he could, reckon.
So what I really love about this movie is that it's an homage, it's a critique, it's a spoof, whatever word you want to call it, for slasher movies. And anytime you get a movie like that, that's like, oh, we're paying homage to this thing, it always feels ham-fisted. It always feels a little overdone or underdone.
Or even like there's an air of like levity.
Yeah.
Or lightness or joking or like, oh, we're being a little silly. This is hardcore the whole time.
Yeah, because it's Wes Craven. He was there when these things were invented. He invented a lot of them. so it feels like him playing with those things, so it doesn't feel like someone else trying to recreate that.
Yes.
It feels like him being like, oh, I'm going to do this as good as possible to a science.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's we've had the conversation before where like I want to see The Last House on the Left and The Hills Have Eyes, like the originals that he did. Because, that's a really nice thing about Scream 2. Not that this guarantees that it would work, but it's just a beautiful stars align moment where, yes, you have this horror master who continues to be a master of it and then gets to the point in his career almost like meta comedy. Yeah. Right? Where he can make a really, really good horror movie that's also table talking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's making fun
without
of
it being
itself
corny.
And you, but also you're sold the entire time.
And there's another scene where they play a little bit with Halloween where Jamie Kennedy is sitting on the couch with the killer behind him saying, Jamie, right behind you. Come on, Jamie, turn around, Jamie, Jamie, right behind you. Yeah. Right. So I also like that. There were a couple of things that also, like, I just think hit really, really nicely. Like, I've seen the movie before, so, like, I have a different experience, and obviously so do you and stuff like that. But, like, even when, like, the reporter, Gail Weathers, is talking to Sydney, and she's like, I think you put the wrong man in jail. And I'm like, get him, Gail. She did. And it's so sad also because you feel bad because, like, Sydney thinks for sure this is the guy that did it, but also, you know, you're like, yeah, you put Cotton in there for no reason. This is fuck, what's his name? You making a murdered this guy. What's his fucking name?
Stephen Avery.
Yeah, you Stephen Avery Cotton.
Yeah. I get that, but also at the same time, hey, Gail, this is a child.
Yeah, that's also so beyond fair. Or like, it still hits so hard that, like, Sydney's having this, like, emotional breakthrough of, like, you know what, you're right, I really, really do have to move on past my mom's death with the fucking guy who killed her mother. Yeah. Like, there's so many little things in there. Like, I haven't seen Last House on the Left, but I know it's fucked up and gruesome, and I know, like, Wes Craven was making movies, specifically horror movies, at a time where, like, you just went for it. Like, I Spit on Your Grave, a rape revenge movie, right? And there's so many of those, like, holdovers in this movie, right? Like, the opening scene we talked about, like, just being inches away from your parents as your, like, lungs are filled up with blood and you're screaming for your parents. I mean, you can't get any more physical embodiment of comfort than that, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's safety. Beyond safety, right?
Yeah.
And she's just dying right there. They're going to the house, they have no idea, right? And yeah, same thing with, like, that situation, right? Like, it's almost the definition of irony, right? Where, like, you as the viewer, I mean, it's because I've seen it before, sure, but, like, you as the viewer know something that they don't know, kind of thing. So you're just sitting there and you're like, fuck, this makes it so much more heavy, right?
Yeah.
But she's having this emotional breakthrough with, like, someone who should be an important person in her life, that for the rest of her life, and instead it's the guy who killed her mother.
Yeah, it's a guy that she's going to kill in about 20 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, at the end, there's actually, like, I kind of, like, made a list of some of, like, the rules and the little references that I'm just going to rifle off. I don't know if it's going to be funny or not. I will say another, like, kind of table talky moment, like the foreshadowing of, like, running out the door when they should be running, or running upstairs when they should be running out the door, and then the door is locked, so she has to do that. There's also the point where all the guys are sitting around watching Halloween, and they're like, come on, where's the tit shot? You know, there's always got to be the obligatory tit shot. Then hard cut to Sydney at taking off her bra, but it slowly pans so that Billy Loomis is covering it, right? So there's another little denial there. Also, the one that's very frequently pointed out is that one of Jamie Kennedy's rules is that only a virgin can kill the killer, and yet she loses her, virginity right before killing the guy. I will also say I love, again, I think this is a really strong, like, script if it hasn't been abundantly clear. I love that, like, when the climax happens, it's like, I love the Gail Weathers, like, bumping into everything happening, right? Like, she gets in the van, or maybe, no, I think she starts with seeing Dewey, right? Dewey dies, she runs to the van. Then she's like, oh, there's blood everywhere. Then Jamie Kennedy shows up, right, in the window, and she pushes him or something like that, or whatever, and he falls down, and then she, like, reverses real hard, and Ken slides down, right? And then she flies off and fucking runs into Sydney who's looking for help, and then gets into a car accident, right? And so, like, in this 45-second shot, you, like, kind of have that thing where, like, almost like Magnolia, where, like, everything converges. Like, everything you've been watching for the last 10 minutes just kind of comes together. I think that was great. And then I guess I would throw it your way because I've been going on for way too long. I love this movie a lot. Is there anything you want to make mention of real quick before I keep steamrolling ahead?
There are a few moments, only one I can think of off the top of my head, so I'm going to say one moment. That is one of those, like, watching it a second time, I understand this now. First time you watch it, you're like, oh, these guys are just best friends. And they play it really well when they're in the video store. Jamie Kennedy's talking to Matthew Lillard, and he's like, that guy's the fucking killer. Your friend is the killer. And then he's behind him, he's like, oh, maybe it's you, and blah, 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 blah. And Matthew Lillard is just hanging on Jamie Kennedy's back. He's like, yeah, man, what if it is you? And when you watch it the first time, you're just like, okay, yeah, he's his boy, so he's standing up for him. And even when he walks away and Matthew Lillard's still on his back, and just continues his conversation with Jamie Kennedy. But when you watch it again and you know it's both of them, you're like, oh no, it's the killers squeezing in on this guy together.
Yeah. I also like Jamie Kennedy a lot in this movie.
Jamie Kennedy?
Yeah, he's such a cute little nerd boy, you know?
Yeah. I had one more. I lost it. Give me one while I think.
Well, I mean, the last thing I kind of want to talk about is just the big reveal at the end, right? Of who the killers are and just all of their dialogue. Just kind of talking about, like, you know, it's more scary when, like, you don't have a motive and whatnot, or like, oh, how about this? Is this motive enough for you? Your whore mom ruined my parents' marriage. That's why I did it, or whatever. Not even that I think that's exactly why he did it. I think he's just, you know, kind of, you know, doing the same thing that cheerleader is doing in the bathroom, where she's like, it's because this generation's brain is rotted out by whatever, and now she's looking for any way that she could possibly, right, where they're just kind of being pretentious, right? I think it's the same thing that he's doing there, where he's like, oh, what if it's this? Does that fit it enough? No, really, at the end of the day, he's like, no, I'm just a fucking psycho.
Yeah, and I love when she's on the phone with Matthew Lillard later. She's like, so what about you? What is your he's like, oh, peer pressure?
I'm way too sensitive. Yeah.
God, he's so I love Matthew Lillard's my favorite in this movie because he's kind of funny throughout the whole thing, and then at the end where it's the two of them, I'm like, ooh, I'm afraid of him, and then when he gets stabbed too many times from then on, I'm like, funniest fucking guy in the movie.
But he's also, it's like a natural funny. He's not going for laughs. He's also serious. Like, it's still a really good performance.
Yeah, and he's kind of sad, but it's funny. So funny.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's so multi-layered. And again, like, just a moment of silence. I don't know if I've said it before, but I'll say it again. I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. Matthew Lillard is an underrated actor.
I think it's the thing that's brought up the most on this podcast is how much we love Matthew Lillard.
I love Matthew Lillard. And this is such a great example. That line with the whole, like, peer pressure thing, just the way he delivers, where he's like, peer pressure, I'm far too sensitive. And that's a line that, like, it's even got the cadence kind of like even like a Marvel joke or something like that, like, right? Like, it's a little silly. It's almost like Twitter. That's where I get all my news, you know?
Yeah, it's like...
but it works so well.
Everything from Matthew Lillard at that end is so good. Like when they're stabbing each other, obviously.
He's like, I think you cut me through the yellow woolsey.
Yeah, he's like... he stabs Matthew Lillard. Matthew Lillard stabs him, and then he stabs Matthew Lillard like 6 times.
Yeah, and I like that because it's like a natural response. Like, Billy Loomis is a psycho who has no empathy, right? So he just got hurt, and he's like, fuck you, you piece of shit. Even though they already agreed, right? Like, the circumstances have changed in his head because he doesn't have any empathy, right? He's thinking, that was fucked up, you fucking bitch, you know?
Yeah,
and stabs him some more.
And like, just thinking about it, just being like, okay, I'm prepared to get stabbed to do this. And so they get stabbed. It's like, ooh, that's fucked up that they can do this, and then he keeps stabbing Matthew Lillard, and Matthew Lillard's like, you have to stop, I cannot take anymore. Yeah,
there's like a point where he starts coughing out of his mouth just a little bit. You see a little bit of blood at first, and then eventually, obviously, his mouth is very bloody even.
Yeah, and he's like, Johnny Depp is like, oh, go get him. He's like, I can't, man, I think I lost too much blood.
Yeah, how about that scene where he's like, Houston, we have a problem. The gun, man, I put it right here. No, it's not. It was right here.
Yeah.
You know.
Yes. Oh, did you really call the police? You bet your ass I did. Oh, my mom is going to be so mad. Yeah. And then I love when he takes the phone from him and he's talking to Sid. He's like, God, he throws the phone. He's like, oh, you hit me with the fucking phone.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that kind of wraps up the bulk of what I have to say about it.
One thing I don't like about the movie, and I don't like it every time I see it, she takes the time to put the costume on.
Doesn't ring a bell for me.
Johnny Depp is going around looking for her, and then she pops out of the closet and she stabs him with an umbrella, but she has the costume on.
Okay. Dumb. For some reason, that doesn't ring a bell in my mind.
Well, it happens.
So, yeah, and then there's a little bit of wrap-up. There's a couple more like, oh, the killer always comes back from one last scare, you know.
And she's like, bang, not in my movie. It's like, yeah, okay, but he did, though.
Yeah. So, yeah, one of the first things that I wrote down in terms of movie references... Maybe this will jog a memory in your mind. I don't remember exactly when it said, but there's a point where someone says something to the effect of like, oh, that's dumb. You might as well go, oh, it's Ghostface in the first scene. He's like, or no. It's Drew Barrymore. She says like, fuck. It's the line where they make fun of like doing the whole who's there or like going and investigate. I think it's Ghostface that says it to her. He says something to the effect of like, oh, don't do that. You might as well go who's there or go to investigate a noise or something like that, right?
Okay, vaguely, yeah.
What else do we have? We also have, obviously, Billy Loomis gives a little bit of a speech that I don't like that too much, where he goes on about how, like, hey, I was watching The Exorcist at home, and I realized it was edited for TV, and all the good stuff was gone. As I was thinking about our relationship, and how it's kind of edited for TV, and, like, you know, I want to push for NC-17.
Oh, my God.
But,
that's the biggest thing about this movie. You brought it up. It's very much so a side of him being a psychopath and a narcissist. But when he's like, come on, your mom's been dead a year. Yeah. That is not enough time to get over your mom being dead. And I love her response is like, a year tomorrow.
Yeah. Then her best friend, Britta Sophia
Rose McGowan.
Yeah.
Actor's name.
When she's talking about how Drew Barrymore was killed, she goes like, she was like splatter movie killed. Yes, you also mentioned the why would I watch a horror movie? They're all the same. You know, some big chested yada yada going upstairs when she could go out the door, yada yada yada. What else do we have? You have Matthew Lillard saying like, or someone, one of their friends saying something to the effect of like, surprised he even wants to talk to you after you branded him the Candyman or whatever.
Yep. I believe at one point, I'm sorry if you had this written down,
That's
but
fine.
I noticed it on my own and
It's
didn't
time.
have to write it down.
No, it's time.
Her friend says like, oh yeah, it's something out of like a Wes Carpenter movie or something. I was like, okay.
That's funny. There's also Janitor Fred.
Yep, played by Wes Craven.
Stripes in the hat like Freddy Krueger. The conversation that you were talking about with the strong arming the twerp.
Yep.
You know, where he gives the explanation that there's always a reason to kill your girlfriend, you know? If the motive is too complicated, you lose your audience, right? You know, talks about how there's a formula. If it were a horror movie, I'd be the prime suspect. You know, he also gives it's the millennium, you know, motives are incidental, right?
Yep.
When Sydney's best friend is getting murdered in the garage, she's like, oh, I spit on your garage.
Yeah.
Please don't kill me, Mr. Ghostface. I want to be in the sequel. I already mentioned that one. You know, there's the whole life is a movie, life isn't a movie argument they have, where he's like, it's all one great big movie, but you can't pick your genre. I do like that you can't pick your genre line. I think that's not bad.
Yeah.
More than the whole, like, oh, our relationship is edited for TV thing that Billy Loomis did earlier.
His last name is Loomis.
Yeah. There's also the chat about the blood and Halloween being too red. It's all wrong. You know, it's all predictable. I want to see breasts. When do we get to see breasts? Right, and then Jamie kicks off into his rules. He gives 3 rules. You remember the 3 rules?
No sex, no drugs or drinking, and don't say I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Oh, also, I read this one. Happens at the beginning of the movie. Drew Barrymore's parents come home. Mm-hmm. The dad goes, take the phone, go to the Mackenzies, call the police. In Halloween, when he
That's
breaks
what she
in,
says to the little boy.
She goes, go to the Mackenzies' house.
Mackenzie's, yeah, because it's across the street. Yeah. We all go a little mad sometimes. What is that one? That one's fucking...
Oh.
We all go a little mad sometimes. That might be Silence of the Lambs or some shit. I can't remember offhand.
Keep reading, I'll look it up.
No, go ahead. When he talks about... Billy Loomis talks about faking dying earlier. It's corn syrup. It's what they use for the pig's blood and carry. You know, he also gives the explanation for, you know, his idea to murder is watch a couple movies, take a couple notes.
It's Psycho.
It's Psycho. There you go. Yeah, Psycho. So this is also a movie where they say the title of the movie a couple of times, but in this very specific one,
scream,
yeah, but they also say it. There's a point where like Matthew Lillard goes like, "And you're gonna love this, baby. It's a scream."
Oh yeah.
So there you go. That's what I'm gonna consider them using the title. That's the one line I'm gonna consider. They also say kind of, you know, black humorishly like these days you gotta have a sequel or whatever, right? Because they say we get to live on for the sequel because we get to have to. Then there's also a point where Sydney throws it back in their face during the climax and she says, you've seen one too many movies, right? Don't blame the movies or something like that, right? There's also that little bit. And then obviously we mentioned the dead killer comes back for one more scare thing, right? And so those were all of the little references that I try to keep a little track of.
I wish you told me you were taking notes.
Oh, because the last time we talked, you said like, I was thinking about keeping a little bit of notes. So I did a similar thing where like I didn't write down every fucking thing that happened or everything like that. I was like, for this one, I'm just gonna make note of every little in joke that I make.
All right. Well, then I'll listen to myself more often, I guess.
Yeah, you have good ideas. I didn't mean to shoot you down. Did it feel like I shot you down?
No, you just had way more than I did. I feel.
No, I mean like when we had our initial conversation about taking
No.
notes. Okay. Just making sure I wasn't crushing you.
So then we immediately watched Scream 2.
Well, before we move on,
Ugh.
you want to wrap it up in any way, or even give it a grade, perhaps?
I'll give Scream an A.
I'll give it an A.
It's great.
Great.
I'm blown away by you
still
bringing
blown
it
away.
up. that I never noticed that he checks the closet. Oh, that's so good.
Yeah, it's really good because they even cut to the screen and showed Jamie in the closet to give like the audience context. So
like I remember them cutting to that, but no, I never picked up that he opens the closet. Like
it's almost as good as the Hal scene you're describing, right?
I'm gonna have to
show
go
don't
back.
tell. Right?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back and watch it. That's so good.
Yeah, and I it's almost a little like I'm fine with it, totally comfortable with who I am, but look at how much I had to say and how enthusiastically I had to say it about Scream as opposed to My Own Private.
Yeah.
So Scream, Scream 2. We watched it immediately after, and I'm going to take the lead for just a second because I just want to get this out. I've just been biting my tongue the whole time. It's been so long, even though I had a very similar experience with Scream to you, right? Like I've seen Scream 1 so many times. There was a point where I was a kid and my uncle had like the box set and I was like, I'm watching all 3, and I watched all 3 and I've never seen 2 or 3 ever again. Just the one time. Not that they're awful. It was just like it didn't leave enough of an impression on me as a kid, right? But you were like, fuck it, let's watch the second one. And I was like, you know what? Fuck it, let's watch the second one. And in general, mixed bag, we can get into it. But I did like that on this watch it had been so long that I was like, oh fuck, who is the killer?
Yeah, I thought that too. And then I was like, because I can like picture all of them.
I can picture the third act so well. But I was like, I can't picture anybody being there besides Cotton. So for a long time I was like, is it Cotton?
Yeah, and then eventually one character goes away for way too long.
Yeah,
and another small character starts showing up a lot for no reason. I'm like, oh, right, it's them.
Yeah.
And I was tipped off probably mostly that Timothy Olyphant is in the movie because he is just a sinister looking man.
Yeah,
and they play him as a nice good guy who just is of no consequence at all. And like I said, just disappears for the last like hour of the movie until the very end.
Yeah. Which I'm gonna say overall, this movie has like a handful of scenes I truly, genuinely love. But as a whole, falls flat in my opinion. That's how I'm feeling about it.
Yeah. How do you feel about... Sorry, go on.
Go ahead. No, hit it.
How do you feel about the opening?
The opening is... Yes, I think mixed baggy because there are things that I like about it, but then also like... it kind of feels... Like it just kind of follows the formula of the first one. Like they wanted something that's really going to like get you... in the start, so it's like, oh, murder in the movie theater, which is a great idea, and I love that nobody knows if it's real at first and stuff like that. But it's spotty is what I'd say.
Yeah, I like that it is like you were saying, as a child, saw that fucking Ghostface mask everywhere. So I like the whole like, yeah, everybody has this mask. Yeah, they're passing it out at the movie theater, but yeah, just seeing a bunch of people use it, wearing one was cool, but also that at the same time, that fucking movie theater, people just screaming and standing up and throwing shit and stuff like that.
It's like Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Never in a million years. Yeah, I guess like Rocky Horror Picture Show where you're gonna go and get that. But yeah, I know it's suspension of disbelief, but
yeah,
just the entire time I'm like, no, absolutely not.
Then there's also a lot of commentary about black representation and horror movies and stuff like that, and it's obvious they tried to sprinkle in a couple more people of color here and there. I don't know if there was some kind of backlash about how white the first one or something like that, but there's like 12 times the amount of POC characters in this.
Oh yeah, film. I think probably even more than that.
Yeah.
We brought up when we were watching it. I don't think either of us said it while we watched the first one, but I was like, no black people in this movie. And then the second one, it's just immediately. Yeah. They're just like...
There's nothing wrong with that other than it feels like they're overcompensating.
Yeah, especially because none of them are main characters. They're just sprinkled in the background. It's like, okay.
Kind of reminds me of, I think it was a tweet that I saw, which is, on a side note, I actually saw, I think it was like a Reductress line that was like, politically motivated woman, political leanings now just an amalgam of tweets by people she doesn't remember.
Yeah.
Or whatever. But anyways, it was a tweet talking about how like sitcoms will do that, right? To try to quote unquote diversify, they'll sprinkle POC like extras in the background, but it ends up having this effect of like since the main characters are all white and they never interact with these characters of color, it creates another world that also reflects the real world where races intentionally, especially like white people, don't necessarily, like, they might not have an outward problem with characters of color, but they also don't interact with them.
Yeah.
Right. So anyways, besides all that kind of stuff, that was just I would say in the stall, I said it out loud, I still stand by it. That's a real hard stab to stab through a stall like that.
Oh yeah, through his brain and the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so that's another one of those examples of just like kind of making him superhuman.
Yep. Also to guess where his head was.
Yeah. But I do like the fact that like immediately after he like kind of like peers around the corner to make sure the other guys are like leaving the stall or the bathroom or whatever, because that's more realistic. But the stab through the stall, I didn't like that. And then also there's like I feel like another layer of, because obviously this is all commentary on horror still, the fact that like she's up there and she's bleeding, and I think it's obviously in and of itself the fact that it's blurring the lines, kind of being kind of like they don't know what's real and what's fake kind of a thing, and the idea being that like you can make that argument just like the first one does kind of to a degree with like you watch so many movies at a certain point, like what's real and fake, kind of blurring the lines, right? But then everybody does realize, and I like that they all have empathy and they realize what's going on kind of a thing, because initially I was thinking like, oh, it's almost like she's standing there and she's actually experienced this and no one cares because they're so desensitized because of what's going on. But I like that it didn't go that far with being cynical. The fact that once people realize what's going on, they do still care. I do like that.
Oh, at the end of this movie, Timothy Olyphant and Billy Loomis's mother.
Yeah.
They're doing this to get back at Sydney, to get back at these kids for what they did to her son.
Yeah, why kill anybody else then, I guess?
Why kill two people in a movie theater?
Yeah, 100%.
Like, was that him?
Why kill anybody other than Sydney, I guess, kind of. I mean, I guess to, like, play mind games with her and scare her or something?
Yeah.
But
like, in the first one, we get that he's psychotic.
Yeah.
But also everyone he's killing makes sense.
Yeah.
Even Drew Barrymore, they make an offhanded comment that they used to date. And she left him for somebody else. But yeah, just two people in the movie theater doesn't really make sense.
I know it's not necessarily too complicated in the sense of the motivation, right? Like, the motivation is revenge. But it reminds me of that quote from the first one where it's like, oh, you make it too complicated and you lose your audience. It's not complicated on the front end, but it's obviously complicated on the back end, right? Which is like, this is a weird way to go for revenge, kind of, right? Like let's take another example of revenge as the motivation for a serial killer. Friday the 13th. She's getting revenge because the camp counselors were fucking around and her kid died, right? But it's the camp counselor, so it makes sense why there'd be a body count because she's killing all of them, right? Whereas like this one, it's like, well, you want revenge on Sydney, so you're killing all of these like new college acquaintances she has that she doesn't care about, and you're killing random people in a movie theater. You know what I mean? Like, you're not doing a good job of the revenge thing, because you haven't necessarily killed anybody she even cares about.
Yeah.
It's just a string of basically strangers. Like, she doesn't know the woman who's home alone watching the sorority house even.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Why do that?
Yeah.
What was the point of that? And I guess you could argue this. I think the reporter was... how do they even meet? Right? How does the reporter meet Timothy the Olyphant and then they decide together that this is a good idea? Right, because I was going to say the explanation being that maybe Timothy Olyphant was immediately, because he's the psycho, right? He just wants to reenact the movie. That's all he wants. So sure, maybe he goes and kills the movie theater. Maybe he kills the sorority girl, right? But what's the point where, like, they meet and the reporter's like, we must team together.
I think they say something about meeting on, like, a forum or something like that. Yeah. But no, I can't remember.
Well, ultimately what I'm saying is this is the example of how it is too complicated, so I think the quote from the first movie works here.
Yeah, also, his plan he said his plan was, oh, I'm going to go to jail, I'm going to go to trial, and I'm going to say movies made me do it, and I'm going to get out scot-free. Yeah.
So that does explain why all the murdering happened. That doesn't have to do with Sydney, sure. And maybe the reporter just came in just for the sake of getting revenge at the very end, But all I'm saying is it's a little watery and, like, weak.
Oh, for sure.
Maybe don't have the reporter and it's fine. I like the idea of just a psycho, like that's better commentary in my opinion of just the whole thing where he's like, I want to be famous, especially because it's really culturally relevant in terms of like that's how most people view like mass shootings these days.
Yeah.
You know.
But you gotta have 2 killers again because the first one had 2 killers.
Yeah, I don't like that. I think they really should have went with 1 killer.
Yeah.
I really, really do. Because that reporter didn't add anything to me other than baggage and weakening your product, watering it down.
It's just another twist. Ooh, I didn't expect it to be this person.
This reporter, yeah. All right, eat my whole butt. Well, let's talk a little bit about things that did work. I think that cop car scene, tense as shit.
Yeah.
Up until the weird jump that we talked about when we were talking about Scream.
Yeah.
Where like he's, you know, you were talking about he's out for too long, or how he shows up and punches the window out and at the cop, and how he disappears kind of and then reappears and kills her friend. But the whole thing where like they have to like pry it back, and she like tries the door and it's like jammed, and then she realizes she has to go across, and she stops to like check the mask, but then she like elbows the horn a little bit, and she's like, I just gotta get out of here, and then she goes to open the door for her friend, but it won't open, so now her friend has to do the same shit.
Yeah.
Great scene. It's one of those things where like Wes Craven's just doing what he does best, you know?
But also, just logistically, think about seeing a car with 4 people in it. Being like, I'm going to kill all 4 of these people in this moving car with a knife.
Yes.
It's...
No, I agree with you. Everything surrounding it is bad, but that specific scene where they have to get out of the car works.
Absolutely. But I'm so hung up on it. And then for the most part, can't really think of too much more of the killings. I think maybe when he's on the phone and they're running around campus looking for who's on the phone, that kind of works.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, Jamie Kennedy.
Which on a side note reminds me of the caller ID scene.
Yeah.
I love that almost immediately. Like it's immediately after the kind of like weird vignette beginning, there's the cold open of her just getting another call and her being like, him being like, you don't even know who I am. And she's like, you're Jerry Livingston of Ohio Town, Ohio. Yeah. And he's like, oh, what?
Yeah, apparently like something like 900% the sales of caller ID machines went up after the first Scream came out. And yeah, I do. That's a nice little added touch where it's like, ooh, this gimmick isn't going to work anymore for this movie.
Yes. And I like that. Again, it's like, kind of meta table talking without being corny, right? Like it's just them being like, yeah, caller ID exists now. Totally.
I like when Gale and Dewey, who I'm surprised we haven't mentioned yet.
Did we even mention him in the first one?
We did not. No, we didn't talk about Dewey at all.
Well, he's WWE champ.
WWE champ David Arquette.
I like Dewey.
I like Dewey too.
I like Dewey a lot.
He's just a hometown cop kicked by a horse as a child.
Is that what the story is?
It's gotta be, right?
I do like in the first movie, he's got I like the line a lot where like she says like, I do really well with 18 to 24-year-olds or whatever.
Yeah, she's like, oh, you do.
And she's like, you do watch that. And he goes, ma'am, I'm 25. I was 24 for a whole year.
It's great.
Yeah. So cute.
I like when they are checking the footage that they got to see if they can find the killer.
Yeah. And
then the other TV turns on, and it's like, oh, this is the killer's footage. Oh, no, it keeps flipping through and flipping through.
Which also ties well into Timothy Oliphant, whatever his name is.
Yeah.
Because he's film major, got a camera.
And then the very last shot is them.
Yeah.
It's like, ooh, that's good. That's very good.
You cut up there, and it's Ghostface working on the projector. That's a little comical, but...
Yeah.
Yeah. I also like the IMs in the
the library
scene, because again, like you don't know who you're looking for. Could be anyone in there. Could easily get out too.
Yeah,
it's just so out in the open. Like it's just one of those things where like, just kind of basic Stalker 101. Undermine your general sense of security, which is actually a false sense of security because you're really not safe anywhere.
I thought all the cotton stuff was weird.
Yeah.
I guess he's a good added layer for like another person that could potentially be the killer, but I do like when Gale gets out of this situation right after reviewing the footage, and she runs into him and he's covered in blood. He's like, I just found Dewey. And she's like, oh no, and she runs and he's like, ah, shit. It's great. Just, there's no way I'm getting out of this one.
On a side note, I will say I want to take it back a little bit about the reporter, but again, I just don't think it works. I actually really like that the reporter's thing is that, like, and everywhere on the media, it's blame the parents, blame the parents, blame the parents. So I like that a little bit, but again, I just don't think they do enough with it. It doesn't work.
Comes out of absolutely nowhere.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But I do like that idea of, like, do something with that.
Yeah.
Don't just mention it at the end and expect me to think that that's a good story.
Ugh.
But anyways, to go back to what we were talking about.
It's like, to go back to what we were talking about, reverse Yahtzee on you, or reverse Uno on you.
I don't remember what we were talking about. Do you?
No, I'm going... this is taking too long. To go back to what you were just saying about the twist, it is the worst kind of twist in a movie, where they're like, twist, and now it makes sense for a bunch of stuff. I'm going to tell you that you would have no possible fucking way of understanding. Yeah. It's like, that's a good twist, but I guess I couldn't have seen that coming because you were lying to me.
Yeah, it's almost like it's not as much of a sin in this movie. In fact, I'm not even complaining about it. But like I know I've heard reviewers talk about how, like, maybe the twist in Friday the 13th would work a little bit better if, like, Mrs. Voorhees was a character in the movie before that point. Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of how I feel about the reporter, is like, okay, you just lied to me. You told me she was a reporter the whole time. I'm not necessarily surprised that she's Billy Loomis's mom, because I didn't give a fuck about her. She was just a reporter who keeps bugging Gail. Like, almost if it was, like, what if it was Billy's mom, and Billy's mom was treating Sydney the same way that Cotton was, right? And so you've just got this, like, storm of, like, she's starting college, and now Gail's bringing Cotton into her life, and this, you know, Billy's mom's tracked her down and keeps harassing her too, right? And she's got all these things she's worrying about, but instead, I don't think the movie does a great job of that.
She would know what Billy's mom fucking looks like.
100%, yeah.
She was her mom was fucking her husband, and also, she walked out of them like a year ago. There's no way she doesn't know what Billy Loomis's mom looks like.
Is it Billy's or is it Matthew Lillard's mom?
It's Billy's mom.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, because she's like, because your whore mother slept with my husband.
Right. There was one other strength I wanted to give it. Baba Booey. Yeah, I think that might be it. To go back to Scream 1, though.
Please.
Something I forgot to mention was, like, the other thing that's really, really, really cool about Scream over other slasher movies is, like, and I think I touched on it briefly when I was talking about, like, oh, man, like, I feel like anyone could die, right? Well, why is that? Because I actually care about these characters.
Yeah.
Which is a rarity in horror movies, but especially slasher movies. My God, is it a rarity in slasher movies.
They're just usually just dumb teenagers that you just kind of hate because they're going to die anyway. Yeah.
And Scream does have, like, the archetypes, right? Like, you know, Billy Loomis, in the script at least, was supposed to be the jockey type, and then Matthew Lillard was kind of supposed to be, like, the funny stoner type, and, you know, Jamie's the nerd, you know, and Sydney's the virgin with her girlfriend being the polar opposite, the quote-unquote, like, slut who sleeps around or whatever. But they're all interesting, three-dimensional. I like them, you know. Yeah. But anyways, to go back to the second one. Yeah, I don't know what else I really have to say about it. I guess I can give it points for the Omega Beta Zeta kill scene, because there's two neat things that happen in that, which I like.
Completely forgot about that.
The fact that the phone stops working when she's on the porch, kind of a thing, right? So she has to go back in the house if she wants to get help. I mean, unless she wants to, like, just run to a neighbor's house, which she also has the obligation to be there, because if anyone calls drunk, so she can give them a ride home, right? That's the whole reason why she's home in the first place.
That feels like second priority if you're being stalked.
Yes. And then there's that scene where she goes back inside so you can try to make and she hears the noise upstairs kind of thing. I'm like, oh, fuck, dude. And then, like, it turns out someone is home, but they're not upstairs. They're in the living room kind of a thing. And at that point, I don't think I'd let her off the hook that easy. I would have been like, hey, bitch, listen. I heard a noise upstairs. Let's go check it out together. But instead, she's just like, oh, I have fun at the party. And ignores the weird call. Like, if I have a weird call like that and hear a noise in the house, I'm sorry. I'm asking you to drop whatever you're doing, like, or I'm calling the cops, or what she tried to do. She tried to call the security. But, like, I'm definitely like, if you came to the door and you're like, oh shit, I forgot my watch. I'm like, yeah, also stay for a second because I just heard some shit in the attic right after I got a weird call.
Yeah, no, what I really like about that too is, her friend's there. It feels a little bit safe for a second. Then the phone rings again and her friend answers it.
Yes.
And it's like, yeah, hold on a second. She goes, it's Dylan. And she goes, okay, well, be safe, this and that. She's like, okay, don't forget to lock the door. And then she shuts it. And she picks up the phone. She's like, it's not Dylan. Don't forget to lock the door. It's like, oh, fuck, he heard your conversation you just had. He's in the house.
Yeah, but again, before that, I wouldn't even be like, oh, hey, friend, have a good time later. I would have been like, hey, bitch, I don't care if it is Dylan. You got to stick around for a quick second.
Yeah.
So anyways.
Also, Dylan, you should probably hear this too.
Yeah. There was just a guy on the phone. It's me again. Oh, my God. So glad I told you not to go to the party yet. So yeah, overall, closing statements. You want to wrap it up? You want to grade it?
I don't like it.
Don't like it?
It has its moments, but overall, I'd give it a C-.
Yeah, I was thinking C territory.
Yeah,
because like I said, there's that handful of like 4 or 5 scenes where I'm like, I like this, or even like smaller subsets of the scene where I'm like, this works really well, but the bulk of it is just messy, spotty, and kind of a diluted version of what the first one was.
Yeah,
I'm
excited to watch 3 because I'm doing that. And I've never seen 4. Screw 4 them.
Neither have I.
5's coming out soon.
I've never seen Fan 4 Stick either.
I don't remember much of it, but I saw it and went, that was bad. That was the end of it.
I've also never seen Chronicle, but they're making a Chronicle too.
Are they?
Yep.
Max Landis wrote Chronicle.
He did. He's also on an episode of the X-Files files that I've refused up until this point to listen to, but it's the X-Cops one. It's the one where the cops has a crossover with the X-Files.
Oh, no.
So I don't want to hear them talk about that, but I also don't really want to hear Max Landis talk.
There's an episode of Red Letter Media where they talk about Neil Breen. He's basically like the new Tommy Wiseau. And I want to hear them talk about those movies, but they got fucking Max Landis with them.
Yeah. Maybe one day I will, because sometimes I'm like, I should listen to some X-Files files. And I'm like, there is that one episode I haven't seen. And I'm like, I just can't do it.
Yeah, that guy's a legit monster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, this was a 3-fer.
This was a 3-fer. It was a 4-fer. We talked about 2001.
Briefly. There might be a extended play version of that EP.
Okay.
One day.
Well, it was the 3-fer with a little bonus for you.
EP and extended play the same shit. There might be an LP version of that EP. The EP might have been a signal of an LP to come. Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.
If you need more soup, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, or go to our website, eatingsoupalone.com. And until next time,